Hi, folks. This is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. We talk about fishing line, but I want to talk about monofilament. Monofilament is what most of us grew up fishing with. It's still, you could go into any store and you'll see just tons of monofilament fishing line. It's sort of the staple. Now, a lot of us have gone to braid, and we have fluorocarbon, and we've talked about the differences. But what I want to talk about is your care of monofilament line. If that's what you're going to use, it has to be taken care of, and most people don't. Most people, they put it on their reel and they pretty much forget it. But there's so many factors that come into play once you buy that line, take it out of the package, and put it on your reel that will make it deteriorate if you're not aware. Number one, leaving it in the sunlight. Ultraviolet rays break down monofilament. They weaken it tremendously. So if you're leaving your rod out there in the car or where the sun really comes down and can beat on that material, it can have a huge effect. The other thing is when we're fishing with monofilament, remember, monofilament stretches. Braided line doesn't stretch. So monofilament stretches. So let's say you're fishing and you get a snag, okay, and you're either going to break the line or you're going to pull your lure or your bait out. And so let's say you're pulling, and finally you get it out, and you still got your thing. It doesn't even matter whether you get your lure back or not. What's happened in stretching that line is it's weakened tremendously. The other thing is when you're fishing, if your reel has any sharp points, if your rod, the guides have any little burrs or anything in them where the line's passing through all the time, that's going to start fraying the outside of that monofilament line tremendously. Even if your rod and reel are fine, you have no problems there, as you're fishing it and it goes along the bottom and it goes along rocks and stumps and so forth, they become terribly abrasive to that line. And so that's going to weaken it. And I got to tell you, I take people fishing all the time through the years, especially when I was doing all the different fishing shows that I did. And I'd always notice that a lot of times their spools wouldn't be spooled properly. The line had weakened and it was breaking. And people just don't think about it. But I think it's one of the most important things of all. So before you go fishing, always just take a moment to check that line. One of the easiest tests of all is to take it between your two hands. If it's 8-pound test, it should be pretty strong and you should have a hard time breaking it. If it breaks easily, then you know that line is deteriorated and it's time to respool your reel. And I do that, let's say, a few times a year, because every time I go fishing, I put my line through things that cause it to weaken. Just try to remember this, and it's another tip that I can pass on at a time of year when we're getting ready. 2 months are going to pass quickly, and it won't be long before we have open water. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.